me wanna holler, go away. I need more peace and hope and love. Where do I find it in this crazy old world? I need strategies, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Every time I listen, Lauren and David share strategies for living, and it makes me aware. I've got strategies for living, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab.
You know, we need them. We need those strategies, don't we? Those strategies for living. So are you ready? You ready for your daily dose of radio rehab?
As long as you're not gaslighting me about the dosage.
Oh, there you go. Hey, folks, welcome. Welcome into another edition of Strategies for Living. I'm Dr. David McMillan. She is psychotherapist, LPC Lauren Leon McMillan. I see what you did there.
See what I did there?
Yeah, I see what you did there. Well, I was going to say, Lauren, you know, today, can you open up your social media without seeing somebody accusing somebody else of being a narcissist?
No.
I mean, is it possible?
It's become quite the buzzword, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And an almost meaningless buzzword at this point, right?
Well, yeah, unless you know what you're talking about. And so that brings me to strategies for living today.
Yeah.
Because we have somebody that knows what they're talking about. We've got Dr. Valerie Sussman with us. She's got a book. It's called Love, Lies, and Narcissist in Disguise, the A to Z guide for survivors of narcissistic abuse. Now, there's a couple of things that excite me about this, and that is we just touched on, you know, a lot of people throw that terminology out, and that's not fair.
Right.
Because the truth of the matter, well, Dr. Valerie will tell us what the truth of the matter is, but it's you would think by, you know, reading social media that 100% of us are narcissists, and then we go around gaslighting each other, like you know. But the truth is that you know, maybe all of us,
it's not as common as we think,
and yet maybe a lot of us have. I don't know. We'll ask Dr. Valerie this. Narcissistic tendencies that can maybe, you know, come out from time to time. I don't know how we want to say that, but we're going to talk today about an important subject, love, lies, and narcissist in disguise. Dr. Valerie Sussman with us today on Strategies. Appreciate you being here, and we appreciate our sponsors who make it all possible. The Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Pintail Roofing, Restore Healing, SRT Sales Training, Uprising Addiction Center, and Mira Direct Primary Care. Dr. Valerie Sussman, our life strategist today, going to talk love, lies, and narcissist in disguise. A to Z guide today on Strategies for Living. Come back with us.
Tune in daily, find the light. Healthy mind and spirits bright. Strategies for living strong. Feel the vibe, it won't go wrong. Body moves and soul align. Catch the rhythm, feel the time. Radio rehab every day. Chase those clouds of gray away. Your daily dose of radio rehab. Lift you up when skies seem drab. Mind and body, spirits free. Living life in harmony.
And welcome into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan. Let's welcome into the program now Valerie Sussman, MD. She is a survivor of narcissistic abuse and a healer on a mission to help others reclaim their voices and transform their lives. She's a retired pediatrician turned artist, writer, and certified narcissistic abuse specialist. And she brings that medical expertise and raw creativity, and you're going to hear the quirky humor in a little while. Brings all of that into the wisdom of her work. And Dr. Valerie Sussman, welcome. Welcome into Strategies for Living.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So the book is called Love, Lies, and Narcissist in Disguise, A to Z Guide for Survivors of Narcissistic Abuse. What are you comfortable? What would you like to tell us all about what you survived? And obviously, you're on the other side of this now. You survived, and that's the great news. But what do you want people to know, Dr. Valerie, about your journey?
Yeah. Well, number one, I really want to de-shame the experience because, look, I'm a physician and I was married to a covert narcissist for 20 years. And my divorce was 15 years ago. Now, back then, people were not talking about narcissism and narcissistic abuse in the same way that they are now.
Right.
But, that being said, I, suffered through 20 years of emotional abuse, did not even realize there was such a thing as emotional abuse. And I'm a physician.
Yeah.
And so, number one, I want to de-shame the experience because I think so many people who go through this experience come out saying, blaming themselves. And of course, part of that is because they've been subjected to a person who is constantly shifting the blame and finding fault with them and, perpetuating self-doubt and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we come out of this experience and, we're saying, how did I not see it sooner? How did I miss it? Why did I put up with this? And, so I want people to understand that, hey, I'm highly educated. I'm a physician and I fell for it and did not see the signs until actually I had already filed for divorce.
Wow.
So, I think that's number one.
Yeah.
It can happen to anybody. It really can. And, we often beat ourselves up when we've been through this experience. But the truth is narcissists prey on, yes, they prey on our vulnerabilities and maybe our insecurities, but they also prey on our good qualities, our sense of loyalty, our goodness, our compassion, our empathy, our willingness and desire to see the good in people, to give people the benefit of the doubt. If you're like me and you're a healer, we want to heal people.
Absolutely.
If we see somebody who is wounded, it's so I can, my love and my compassion and my care and concern can help them get, heal their wounds. And we want to fix it. So I think, that would be my number one takeaway for people is please do not blame yourself. I have talked to so many survivors, and these people are, by and large, highly intelligent, highly compassionate, just stellar individuals, and did not see it for what it was.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you're sharing what you're sharing because there's some people that are listening to us right now who think, I know how to spot a narcissist. They're the loud, self-centered one in the room. Is that the case, Valerie? I mean, can we spot a narcissist that easy?
Sometimes, if they actually are the loud, arrogant person in the room, perhaps.
But they're not always. Sometimes they're the charming one.
And that's where the danger lies. And that's exactly it. Because, the loud, obnoxious ones, come on, we all know, and we're not going to fall for them. We might even be amused by them. Oftentimes they're the celebrities and the stars and, whatnot. But it really is the covert ones, the hidden ones, the wolves in sheep's clothing, so to speak, the ones who seem nice, seem caring, seem, attentive, and are charming and charismatic. And especially, oftentimes if you're in a relationship, they will come on with, what's known as love bombing, which is, they turn it all the way up, and it's the attentiveness, it's the caring, it may be lavish gifts or attention, and it feels too good to be true. And, we don't realize it until we've really been hooked. So absolutely. Very often the narcissists are not easy to spot, and, they don't walk in the room, shouting me, look at me, or
Right.
I'm a narcissist.
Right.
And that, I think, is where, why it is really important to recognize the more subtle signs.
So let's kind of start there. When, some people, and Lauren, you touched on this, that it's almost become psychobabble today.
Yeah.
What exactly, there may be some people that think they know, but Dr. Valerie, how do we define narcissism? How do we define...
and how would we distinguish that from narcissistic traits or
Yes.
from personality disorder?
Yes.
And then just an abusive relationship?
Yeah. So narcissistic personality disorder is actually a diagnosis. It's in the DSM 4 or 5. I forget which number we're on now. I think it's the 4 or 5. I can't remember anymore. But it is a diagnosis that can only be made by a professional like yourselves, for instance.
Right.
And it's based on 9 criteria. And it includes things like entitlement, lack of empathy, superiority, those sorts of things. Here's the thing. Very few narcissists actually go to a professional, a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and say, Doc, what's wrong with me? Please help me. Usually it's the people who have been subjected to them that end up in the therapist chair, as you obviously both know.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if they ever end up in a therapist, also if they've been drugged there.
Yeah.
Of last resort.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so very few people actually carry a diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. And to my mind, it's somewhat limited anyway. Yes, I believe those 9 traits do fit. And you only have to have 5 of the 9 to actually carry the diagnosis.
Right.
But the truth is narcissism exists on a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a constellation of personality traits like lack of empathy, envy of others, entitlement, exploitation of others, those, superiority, need for attention, and admiration, those sorts of things. But it also includes things like unwillingness and inability to take accountability, an insatiable need for what's known as narcissistic supply, which can be attention and admiration. It can also be money, power, status, those sorts of things. And again, I think I like to think of it more as a descriptive term than an actual label or diagnosis, because I do think it exists on a spectrum. And yes, we all do have some narcissistic traits. At times we are, we can be a little superior, or and feel a little bit entitled, or maybe not have the empathy that we could have or should have. We're all guilty of that at times.
Sure.
And so really, it becomes it's a spectrum. And so that's how I like to think of it. So I'm not a huge fan, ironically, as a doctor, of a diagnosis per se.
Right.
But it as more of a descriptive term.
What you were 20 years married in a covert narcissistic marriage. At what point did you go, I think maybe?
That's what that was.
Where did that happen for you? How did it happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little embarrassing to admit as a physician, because and again, like I say, this was 15 years ago. I was in therapy. We went to 2 separate marriage counselors and nobody picked up on it. Okay. Now I would like to think these days it would have surfaced sooner. Probably depends on who the therapist is.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah. But my understanding is, therapists do not get a lot of schooling in this area, and hopefully that's changing. But ironically, I one day found myself just out of the blue asking myself, is there such a thing as emotional abuse? And, like I said, in medical school, we didn't learn about this either. We learned about physical abuse, and
Right.
certainly in my pediatric training,
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
we learned how to recognize signs of physical and sexual abuse, but not emotional abuse, psychological abuse, none of that. Financial abuse. And I actually Googled emotional abuse to see if I was imagining things. And I came across a book on emotional abuse, and I ordered it. And this was before there were podcasts and Instagram and TikTok and those sort of, handy references.
Right.
I ordered the book, and in the book, there was an entire chapter on narcissism. And, let me just say I highlighted the entire chapter.
Did it feel like you were reading your life?
That's it. That's him.
Yeah.
Love, Lies, and Narcissist in Disguise. Dr. Valerie Sussman is our life strategist. Now, what the book is, it truly is an A to Z guide for survivors of narcissistic abuse. I'm so impressed with the job you've done with this book, Valerie. We're going to come back. We got to take a break. We'll come back and dive more in it. It truly is A to Z.
I love that.
It is.
Yeah.
Dr. Valerie Sussman, our life strategist here on Strategies for Living, talking about those dreaded narcissists today. And perhaps we all have one in our lives. We'll be back. More to come on Strategies.
We all have problems every day. We all need help along the way. We need strategies, 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 strategies for living radio.
Welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan. We're with Dr. Valerie Sussman today. She's written an important book. It is called Love, Lies, and Narcissist in Disguise. It's the A to Z guide for survivors of narcissistic abuse. And you can find it where you buy books. You can find it at your favorite bookseller. And I hope you will.
Yeah, I love it. I love that it's literally A to Z, but so much good information in here. So thank you.
Thank you.
So, with regard to you kind of touched on this a bit last segment, Valerie. One of the things that a true narcissist is going to do is make their quote unquote victims, I'm air quoting victims, but make their victims doubt their own reality. And that's the gas you were
Right.
mentioning, the gaslighting thing.
And that's another term that's kind of become ubiquitous.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So how do narcissists make their victims doubt their own reality?
Yeah, I mean, gaslighting, of course, is probably number one. And gaslighting is everything from, the goal of gaslighting is to get you to doubt yourself, to question, your memory, your perception, your conclusions. And gaslighting is everything from, I never said that, that never happened, you're too sensitive, you always make a mountain out of a molehill. You're so dramatic, all of those sorts of statements,
Right.
That leave us questioning ourselves. And, and when you're the type of person that, really does try to be self-reflective and aware and conscientious, we find ourselves saying, maybe I am being too dramatic. Maybe I am
you want to look at
remembering it wrong.
Yeah.
And when you're repeatedly bombarded, with somebody who sounds so sure of themselves and so confident, and they're saying, no, that never happened. We do find ourselves questioning ourselves. And you couple that with the nitpicking, the wearing down of our self-esteem, the fault finding, so we our self-esteem plummets, our self-confidence erodes, and all of those lead us to question ourselves. The other thing narcissists do is they will never take accountability. And I know I mentioned that briefly. And so let's say you bring up something to a narcissist, when you said, I was hurt when you said this.
Right. You
will not get, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. Or yeah, maybe that did come off a little harsh. Or you're right, I shouldn't have saad that. You will get, well, can't you take a joke? Or, well, what about when you did this? Or, well, if you hadn't said this, I wouldn't have done that. And all of that, it's just compounds. We begin to self-doubt and begin to question ourselves. And that is part of the narcissist tactics. It's one of the main ways they gain control.
Yeah. I just this popped into my head. So you may say, where are you coming from? But I know there's some people out there listening to us right now that if we were taking call-ins, we're not, but if we were, I know we would get a question that asks us, well, are narcissists evil?
Ooh, that's a tricky one.
Yeah.
I think I would say, again, narcissism is a spectrum. So on the far end, if you're talking malignant narcissists, people, sociopath type people, yes. But there are nice narcissists who maybe, and again, using the term narcissist, not as a diagnosis or a label per se, but as more of a description. There are people who are, fun, and maybe they're a little self-centered, or they need a lot of attention, and, they're sort of the life of the party, and maybe they're not the person you go to in a time of need.
Right.
But they can be okay. They can be somewhat harmless per se. So again, it comes down to the fact that it's a spectrum, and you've got, your benign, just sort of superficial, shallow type people to the people that really are out to harm others.
Yeah. Valerie, is there a, we're strategies for living, right? So we like to give strategies, and we like to give signs, ways that people can identify. And I'm just wondering, is there an early one? Is there a early sign, a first sign of, whoa, I might be dealing with a covert narcissist instead of just a difficult person?
Yeah, what a great question. Ironically, and this is my next book, I'm going to be writing a book on red flags. And I think, a lot of people talk about the red flags, traits and this and this and that. But I would say the number one early sign is a sense of confusion. It's a sense that something's not adding up, something's not right. It's a confusion. This person says one thing and does another. They act like they care, but I don't feel like they do. They act like they want me to succeed, but then I feel unsupported or sabotaged when I am succeeding. And it leads to a really profound state of confusion. And just a sense in our gut that something's not right. And of course, many of us override that. Right. And we talk ourselves out of that. But I think confusion is probably the earliest sign.
Well, and talking yourself out of that, isn't that oftentimes easy to do because the narcissistic person can use kindness, can kind of switch that on and off, if you will. And it's almost like they use kindness as a weapon.
Yeah, what a great point. Because and here's why I say what a great point, because it is. But here's the piece people don't realize. We think of, narcissistic relationships, for those in your audience who are not aware, tend to follow a cycle, a 4-part cycle. And it starts with love bombing, and that's when they come on really strong.
Right.
And then it devolves into devaluing, which is the nitpicking, the fault finding, the belittling. It could be withdrawing, those sorts of behaviors. Eventually discard, and this is where they either physically check out or they just emotionally and mentally check out. And it may be followed by hoovering, which is when they suck you back in.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the piece about the hoovering. And this is one of the ways narcissists keep us hooked, is they breadcrumb us. So the love bombing can be interspersed with the cruelty, the neglect, the devaluing. And so it's not, we don't only get love bombed in the beginning,
Right.
although that's when it's the strongest. We do kind of get, again, breadcrumbs of kindness and concern and affection, maybe even admiration sprinkled in. And so it keeps us kind of coming back for more, and it keeps us believing that, oh, this actually isn't so bad.
Yeah. And I love that in the book you use this wonderful term, hopium.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah, will you tell us a little bit about, because I think it explains, though, kind of what you're getting at. People from the outside looking in might say, well, why don't you just leave?
Sounds addictive to me.
It is all of the above. And, oh, God, why don't you just leave? Every survivor's heard that and
yeah.
dreads that question.
Yeah.
Why aren't you over it? Whatnot.
Mm.
And so what hopium is, and of course it's coined from the combination of hope and opium.
Yeah.
And opium is an addictive drug, and it's a feel-good drug.
Mm-hmm.
And so when a narcissist sprinkles in kindness and love bombing and these sorts of things, it keeps us hooked on hope. And it's compared to playing a slot machine. If a slot machine never, gave out winnings, we would walk away. But
Sure.
we keep playing because we know we might hit the jackpot if we keep playing.
Right.
And it feels really good to hit that jackpot. And
And
so
they put all the
keeps us
they put all
coming
the
back for
bells
more.
they put all the bells around so everybody knows you've just hit the jackpot.
Of course, because if he can get the jackpot, if she can win, maybe I can too.
Mm.
Yeah, and so it is addictive. It is addictive, and hope is addictive and actually very dangerous in a narcissistic relationship, because it leads us to negate and deny the harmful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the things that Lauren and I talk about a lot on strategies is we talk about relationships,
Yeah.
but we often talk about the most important relationship any of us will ever have is the relationship we have with ourselves. And kind of listening to you, Dr. Valerie, I'm getting the idea that that's one of the things that get really
Severed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That your reality is made to be questioned to the point that, okay, well, I must be kind of crazy. I must be kind of off.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, God, I've talked to so many people, and the one word that comes up the most, believe it or not, is crazy.
Mm.
Am I crazy?
Yeah.
Because narcissists lead you to believe that you are, that things didn't happen the way you think. You're making a big deal out of nothing. You're too sensitive. You're too dramatic. These sorts of things. And so absolutely, they hijack your reality. They hijack your sense of yourself. Again, almost everybody I know who's been through a relationship like this ends up walking away saying, I felt like I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And I actually have in the book under N, I have not good enough.
Yeah.
Because those 3 buzzwords are almost universal from anybody who's been in this kind of relationship, because narcissists just erode your sense of self. They chip away at you until you don't know your worth. You don't know your value. It's just awful.
Yeah.
Love, Lies, and Narcissist in Disguise. Dr. Valerie Sussman, it is the A to Z guide for survivors of narcissistic abuse. And we've got more with Dr. Valerie here on Strategies for Living. Stay with us.
We all have problems every day. We all need help along the way. We need strategies for living radio.
Welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan, Dr. Valerie Sussman, our life strategist today, the author of Love, Lies, and Narcissist in Disguise, the A to Z guide for survivors of narcissistic abuse. And it's out from Full Spectrum Press, and you can order it at your favorite bookseller. You can also check Valerie out at valeriesussman.com, and I hope you'll do that. Okay, I kind of want to go back to something that you said last segment, Dr. Valerie, and that is we question ourselves, am I crazy? At some point, maybe we decide either we are or we aren't, right? When we decide we aren't, what are kind of the beginning places? Mm-hmm. What are kind of the first steps or strategies that we need to think about?
Yeah. Well, number one, I highly recommend therapy for anybody who has been through something like this, because it really does mess with our psyche, and it has such a huge effect on our self-esteem. Mm-hmm. And healing is so multifaceted from if you've been in a relationship like this, or if you've grown up in a family where there's a narcissist. Right. Anybody who's really had any kind of prolonged exposure to a narcissist, right, I really do believe will benefit from therapy. So that's number one. Number two, I wrote a book, so I'm a huge advocate for education and awareness, because I do believe in this case, knowledge is power. And one of the ways narcissists get away with what they get away with is because we're not onto them. Right. We don't know what to look for. We don't know the signs. And so, and that's one of the reasons I wrote my book as an encyclopedia dictionary, is because I think having the terminology where we can say, oh gosh, this is gaslighting. Yeah. Oh, I'm being love bombed again. This is oh, I'm being hoovered. Oh, this is a smear campaign. Whatever. He's moving the goalposts. I've used all of those terms when I've spoken to people, and it's amazing how when you use the terminology, and you can say something like, "Well, he's moving the goalposts on you," and it's like, oh, that's what's going on.
Yeah, when you can call the game what it is.
Yeah.
Exactly. Name it to tame it, right? And I, so I do think having the vocabulary and having the language, the understanding to recognize it, even if it's not in real time, at least immediately afterwards. Right. So, education and awareness. I think the other thing that's really valuable is connecting with other survivors, others who have been through it. It's hugely validating to hear other people's stories and to hear other people say, "Oh my God, that happened to me too."
To know you're not alone. To know you're not by yourself.
It's everything to know you're not alone, because narcissistic abuse is so isolating, and that's by intent. Narcissists want to isolate us. They don't want others to point out, "Hey, this person's not good for you. Do you realize what's happening?" They want us all to themselves. It helps them maintain control. And when you start reaching out to other people and hearing other people's stories, and you say, not only, wow, I'm not crazy, this actually happened, this person went through it too, and so did this one, and so did this one. Yeah. It helps us, focus on our own stories and see how that fits ours, but it also, helps us connect to others, and it does take away some of the stigma, some of the shame, to realize, wow, a lot of people have been through this, and their stories sound alarmingly similar to mine. Yeah. So connecting with others, I think, is hugely important, and of course, as well as connecting to those in our lives who love us and care for us, our family, our friends, maybe people we've kind of pushed away because everything became all about the narcissist. That's really important. And I think also, getting back in touch with the things that we enjoy, that give us fulfillment. I have a good friend who's recently come out of a narcissistic relationship, and she said, I never had the bandwidth or even the quote permission to pursue my own interests. And now she's taking up drawing again, which is something she had put on the back burner for years.
Yeah.
And she's loving it.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what role do you think do activities like creative activities like art, writing, play, what role did those play in healing and recovering from this?
Well, you're asking somebody who started making art as part of her healing process.
I kind of figured.
Yeah. So for me personally, huge. But creativity doesn't have to mean making art. It can be getting in the kitchen and cooking.
It's different things for different people.
Picking up a guitar.
Yeah.
It can be dancing around the room.
Yeah.
So creativity, I am a firm believer in play. And I say this as an adult who, is a child at heart and is a pediatrician. So I'm all about children and play.
Sure.
Yeah.
Play is hugely healing and liberating. And it takes us out of our heads and puts us in our body and puts us in the moment. And, you're both psychologists, so know the value of mindfulness and being in the moment.
Yes.
So I think all of those are hugely therapeutic and hugely healing and frankly fun. And if you've been in a narcissistic relationship, these are by definition trauma. And we have a deficiency of fun in these relationships.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What the book is worth every penny, although it is not an expensive book, but it's worth every penny you pay for the A to Z. But I got to tell you, Valerie, in the back of the book, you've got some recommended resources, and you've got books, you've got podcasts, you've got YouTube videos, you've got books on healing and life. It's worth the admission to the book just to get that list. It's an incredible list.
Well, I am far from the only resource on this. And again, I think, different people get their information in different ways. So some people, I'm a reader, some people are readers. Some prefer quick TikTok videos.
Sure.
And the other thing is, I think, again, sometimes in a situation like this, sometimes it requires hearing things a number of ways.
Yeah.
And you probably notice in the book, I have a lot of repetition in the book.
Yeah.
And that's because sometimes something might click for one person and not another. Or maybe it's hearing it the fourth time, put in different words.
Yeah.
Finally makes it click.
Kind of clicks in.
And it may be pardon me?
Kind of clicks in. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and again, different experts speak to different people.
Sure.
So, I use a lot of humor and a lot of metaphor. So if you're a person whose brain works that way, I may be your person. If you're somebody who wants more of a scientific type approach or more of a let me tell you my story approach, those people may click better. It just depends.
Yeah, this book is incredible. It's called Love, Lies, and Narcissist in Disguise. It's an A to Z guide for survivors of narcissistic abuse. Valerie Sussman, Dr. Valerie Sussman, and you can find her at valeriesussman.com. You can find the book wherever you buy books, and I hope you will. We'll be back to wrap up here on Strategies with Dr. Valerie Sussman. Stay with us. And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan, Dr. Valerie Sussman, who is the author of Love, Lies, and Narcissist in Disguise. And Valerie, the only complaint that I've got is that we need about 3 or 4 more hours with you. So number one, you got to come back. But number two, we've covered a lot of ground today. So if you want people to take away one thing, what do you really want people to take away from this conversation today?
Yeah. I think the number one thing is, first of all, you're not crazy if you've been through this. Number two, this was not your fault. If you've been subjected to narcissistic abuse or to the type of manipulation, emotional abuse that narcissists, put us through, you did not cause this. You were not at fault. You're not the problem. You're not alone. There are lots and lots of us out there who have been through it. So that's really important to know. You are not alone. And I think also, if you've been through this, we come out of this with the sense of hopelessness and helplessness. And I really want anybody who's been through this to know there really is life and light after narcissistic abuse, and if you so choose, even love. This is not the end of your story.
Absolutely.
You get to rewrite a way better ending.
And a great way to begin to rewrite your story is this book, Love, Lies, and Narcissist in Disguise, Dr. Valerie Sussman. Folks, thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Strategies for Living. And we appreciate our sponsors who make it all possible. The Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Pintail Roofing, Restore Healing, SRT, Sales Training, Uprising, Addiction Center, and Mira, Direct Primary Care. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call that you could make, who would you call? And what would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Dr. Valerie Sussman, for Lauren Leon McMillan, I'm David McMillan. See you next time right here on Strategies for Living.